Hello, welcome to the Healthy Alternatives podcast. I am Dr. Christine Sauer with DocChristine.com. Today's show is a recording of my radio show of the same name. Enjoy! Good afternoon, this is Dr. Christine Sauer, your host of the show Healthy Alternatives here on 97.5 CIOE FM with live stream on communityradio.ca every Thursday at 12 noon Atlantic Standard Time. Thanks for tuning in today. In this show, I will talk, mostly with guests, about all aspects of health, healthcare and wellness, from conventional to alternative and everything in between. My mission for this radio show is to help change people's lives for the better by informing them about different options to get and stay healthy and well, so they can choose for themselves which option might work in their case. And if you feel you are stuck in a dark place, I want to tell you, don't give up. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for you too. Today, I'm extremely pleased to talk to Michelle Hindley, who is a director and volunteer for the Sackville Lakes Park and Trail Association. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
And that is interesting because, as some listeners might not know, because of course they listen on the podcast or worldwide on the web, this radio station is volunteer run too, and it is in Lower Sackville, where you are located and where the Lakes Park and Trail Association is located. And I must say, I live in Middle Sackville for 14 years and I don't know much about it. So I'm really curious to hear how people can improve their health by walking the beautiful trails of Sackville, Nova Scotia.
Great. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you end up in Sackville and end up being volunteering for the Sackville Lakes Park and Trail Association?
So I've been living in Sackville since 1973. Family moved here and married my wife from Dartmouth, and we actually ended up living in our family home and have been there ever since. In terms of how I got involved in the association, is I like outdoors. I like doing outdoor activities and like to ski and hike and golf and do things and stay active, as much active as I can. The association was one that interested me because we have this beautiful park in our backyard. A lot of people don't even know about it. One of the things I tell people, did you know that the Sackville Lakes Park is 3 times larger than Point Pleasant Park?
Wow, I am sure most people don't unless they are born and grown up in Lower Sackville.
Right.
And as you know, there's many new subdivisions and many people move in our area, or they drive through on their way from the valley to Halifax. Why not stop and have some nice fresh air?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what it is.
Yeah. So the park itself has a little bit of a history. I'll give you a brief history on it. Originally back 20 years ago, that whole area was slated for housing development. And at that particular time, a lot of the community groups got together and they lobbied the government. And the government of the day decided to turn it from Department of Urban Housing to Department of Lands and Forests.
Hey, super.
And the park was officially, it's the newest park in Nova Scotia. It was officially made a park, a provincial park, 5 years ago. So it's fairly new. But it's been there, and anybody who's grown up in Sackville knows that you could go back there and go down to the lake. It used to be watershed area for Second Lake used to be the watershed for this area, and people would go back there hiking or just to get out and enjoy themselves. So since then, the park itself is the land is owned by the province of Nova Scotia. But the association, the volunteer association, has worked hard over the past 20 years and developed a trail network in the park. And now we have approximately 6 kilometers of what we call active transportation trails, which are the typical trails that are about 3 meters wide, and they would have like a crusher dust surface suitable for walking, hiking, or biking.
Okay, are ATVs allowed in there?
No.
Good. Because really they annoy many people and they can be dangerous if somebody's walking or even bicycling and they come there flying around the corner there. I know they drive by our house all the time to go in the woods, and I'm not too keen on that when it's happening in the middle of the night, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So I have to check that out for sure. Tell us a little bit more.
So the association itself is all volunteer, and we've over the years we've been able to secure funding primarily from the city of Halifax, because the park is considered an urban park, and we have had some funding from other sources. Community Cultures and Heritage in the province also has granted money so that we can hire people to build the trails. So it's been a process. It's gone in phases, and pretty well the whole east of the park now you can go all the way. You can join in the park. You can come into at the end of Armcrest Drive. There's an entry trailhead there. You can also come in at the top of Metropolitan Avenue, or the main entryway for the park is where a parking lot was built. And there's washrooms, and that's quite busy. That's really the hub of it. So you can enter from 3 different areas.
Where's that main entrance? It's
on First Lake Drive. If you go down First Lake Drive, almost to Cobequid, you'll see the park sign on the left, and there's parking. I believe it's estimated for, I think 30 cars, something like that. But it's very busy. I was back there this morning, and people are really, really utilizing it now, especially since the parking lot has gone in. It's really been a hub. And part of the park, too, crosses over the road and goes along First Lake. So part of the park includes First Lake.
Wow.
On the other end of it, not all of First Lake. And pretty well everybody knows First Lake.
It's right off Glendale, yeah.
But not a lot of people know about Second Lake, and actually for many years it was called Hidden Lake because you can't see it. You can't see it. You know, it's bordered on the north by Wingate, Cobequid on the west, and Beaver Bank on the east side.
That big?
And then the residential area borders it all along the south side.
Oh, okay.
So there's many access points to it. The west side of the park has not been developed, although a lot of people have actually created their own wilderness hiking trails. There's quite a network of hiking trails back there too, which are undiscovered. And some people prefer to just go for a walk with their dog or their family on a nice paved trail. But other people prefer to go into the wilderness, and the forest over on the west side of the park is old growth Acadian mixed forest.
Beautiful.
You can go in there, and in many places you're walking under the canopy of the forest. It's just a fantastic place to visit.
But for people that are not very good keeping directions, I wouldn't recommend they go there.
That's right. They're not marked at this time, although the association, we are looking at potentially doing some marking of trails there in the future. But you can go all the way from the parking lot to Armcrest Drive, and you can do a loop. It's about 6 kilometers one way and come back.
So many people, especially older people, are a little bit handicapped, have maybe a cane or walk or even wheelchair bound. Can they use the trails?
Yes, the slope of the park is generally described as relatively easy. There's some small hills in it, but and there's one section of the new trail they put in, the White Pine Trail, which goes from Eddie LeBlanc Field to the parking lot, is fairly flat, and it just meanders parallel to First Lake Drive. So it's about 800 meters. It's just a short, but it enables people to come from where the end of the sidewalk is in the urban area and get access right into the park without having to walk on the road there.
That is really, really good. So even if somebody's not used to walking or hiking, they can start just with an 800-meter trail. Is that right?
Yes.
So that's nice, because some people say, oh my God, 6 kilometers, that's way too much for me, where I have hip problems, knee problems, or whatever.
Yeah, the main trail from the parking area is called the Great Oak Trail, and it does a loop and comes back. And then when you get down by the lake, there's all kinds of benches along the way where people can sit and rest. and enjoy nature. And once you get down to the lakes, what they call the Lakeside Trail, goes from there all the way down, follows the lake. You can see the lake pretty well to the bottom of Metropolitan Avenue and out to Armcrest. And there is an entry node coming from Armcrest too now. So there's a little bit for everybody, if you wanted to do a long hike or a short hike. You see a lot of people in there with their dogs or with their children or strollers. And we're finding it's being used more and more and more, which is good because...
Now, I assume, is there off-leash areas, or are the dogs always on the leash?
Everything in the park, you have to have your pets on a leash.
And that makes sense because many people are afraid of big dogs and don't know how they react to strangers.
That's true. And whenever you go into one of the entry areas, there's places to get doggy bags to clean up after your pets, and there's trash cans. And
most people I notice actually do it nowadays, which is a big success, because I remember when I was in Germany, every day I found little puddles, and puddles is not so bad, but the little mounds in front of our driveway, and that was a nuisance.
Yes, for sure.
So I really like that law, and when we take out our dogs, there's always a plastic baggie in our pocket, because I think it's just reasonable.
Yes, for sure.
And a responsible dog owner is no nuisance.
Yes, dogs are generally friendly, but they can be unpredictable at times and respond differently to different people. But getting back to the trail aspect of it, if you've never been there, I would recommend anybody to just go, and you won't believe, especially if you live, in the area in Sackville here. You don't have to go very far into the park where you're in a park and you're not. It's hard to believe that it's a wilderness, right? It's a hidden, I call it a hidden gem in our community here. And not only do you have the benefits of being able to get some exercise, you also have the benefits of the mental benefits, enjoying nature, and there's over 200 species of plants in the park, and there's always wildlife. There's all kinds of different wildlife.
So that's really a good point to end our first half, and we'll talk more about all those benefits in the second half.
Okay.
Because, to be honest, I didn't know much about it, and I'm excited to share that with everybody that wants to listen to it, because it is really good. Hey, we have a nice park in Lower Sackville.
Yes.
And this brings us to the end of the first half of today's broadcast here on 97.5 CIOE FM Community Radio. Please tune in after the commercial break for more about the Sackville Lakes Park and Trail Association with Michelle Hindley. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to Healthy Alternatives here on 97.5 CIOE FM or on the web at communityradio.ca. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Sauer, and today I'm with Michelle Hindley, Director and Volunteer for the Sackville Lakes Park and Trail Association. Welcome back, Michelle.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to talk at a show that's taped in Lower Sackville. About Lower Sackville. I live in Middle Sackville. I did not know about those parks, and I'm excited to try them out, especially since I can take my husband, who's a little bit handicapped, walking. It's all nice and not paved, but graveled. So that's easy to walk, even if you have a replaced knee like himself. Exciting. So we were talking about the details, where to find it. My question is, when you go to the parking lot,
yes,
is there a sign, a map of the trails?
Yes, there is a main map there which shows you, and there's maps located generally at most of the major intersections of the trails. And it shows you where you are. It tells you how long the trail is. And Yeah, I recommend anybody who hasn't been here to go to the parking area first, and then if you choose to explore, you can, or do some longer hikes, you can go to the other ends.
I just wanted to ask you, for those that tuned in maybe a little later, to repeat where to find that parking lot.
So the main parking lot is on First Lake Drive. If you're coming from it's just before you reach Cobblequid Road. If you're coming from Metropolitan Avenue along First Lake, and it's almost to the end on your left. You'll see a big sign. And
Metropolitan Avenue, for those that are not that familiar, is off Glendale, where the fire station is.
Correct, yeah. You basically take the route through the subdivisions on the north side of First Lake, and then you'll end up, just before Cobblequid, you'll end up at the main parking lot.
I'm just thinking of all the people that live in the subdivisions and maybe just moved there.
Yes.
And it's so important that they check out all those resources, because that is so amazing, and the benefits you can have. And I know many people say, oh, there's nothing where I can walk. Hey, there is something, you didn't know about it. So I love that we can publicize that a little bit more.
Yeah, you can also find some information on the association, Sackville Lakes Park and Trail Association, or just Sackville Lakes Provincial Park on the web. There's two different websites you can go to. And there's on the Sackville Lakes site, it has a lot of information about the trails, and so a lot of pictures, and there's a history too, a lot of details about the history of the park. And
so what again is the web address where they can look?
Sackville. You can go to the Province of Nova Scotia Provincial Parks, Sackville Lakes Provincial Park, right? All one word. Or if you go to our association, it's Sackville Lakes Park and Trail Association, all one word. Both
.ca?
.ca, yes. Yeah.
Excellent. And I will share them on the podcast and when we put it on Facebook. And if anybody can't remember it, just shoot me an email, message, whatever, and we'll sure to let you know, because that is very good. And we were talking a little bit about the benefits. And you were saying, and I completely agree, it's not just the walking itself. You can walk on any paved road, but it's the experience of nature. Talk a little bit about that and what it offers. And I really am excited about that, because you can't get lost when you stay on the trails.
That's correct, yeah. So, so most people in the area, who live in the area or around the area, are used to, we live in a fairly densely populated housing area. And once you enter into one of these entry nodes, you realize very quickly that your nature is all around you. And it's hard to believe, actually. I find it hard to believe, because you go from being in a suburban area to nature very quickly. And it's quite expansive too. So you can take the network of trails, and they're all marked, and you can find different areas that might interest you, whether you want to go along the lake or go through there's a lot of older growth forests in the park. You can take, it has a little bit for everybody. It's quite flat generally, and it's surrounded by, the lake is actually hidden because there's ridges all around the lake, the geography. So when you come into the park, that's why you can't see it, because it's hidden by the higher geography around it. And there on the east side of the park, there's the Armcrest area. It's another area you can go in. It's a fairly short one. It's fairly flat. If you go down as far as Metropolitan Avenue, there's a steep hill there. So that would be probably challenging for some people, but you can stay down on the lower part. Some of the things that are going on in terms of, on the east side of the park, there's a brook which feeds the lake.
Nice.
And we've hired, through the funding the funding that we get, we've hired some stewardship to bring that old brook back to life, because after Hurricane Juan, it was quite severely damaged and was choked, and the whole natural flow of the river or brook changed. So they just finished doing the second year of restoration. We hired the Sackville Rivers Association to do that work for us. And what they're doing is clearing out the choke points and trying to bring the river back to working on ponds and that, to bring it back to its more natural state, and hopefully so that fish will start to move back up into the brook.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And many people just enjoy sitting by the water and listening to it rustle by.
That's right, yeah.
That's nice. And it's not quite as nice as being on the ocean and seeing the waves, but it's nearly, and for some people the woods is actually more calming than the ocean.
The water quality of the lake, I describe it as pristine, right? It's there's very little development. There's a few houses on the north side of the lake, private property, but the quality of the water is very clean. You can swim in it if you wanted to. You are allowed to canoe in it, but you'd have to walk in, portage in. There's no boat access in there right now, so it's kept. People have to really walk in or bike in to get there. So it's kept all the development to a minimum. The only development really is the trails themselves. There's no washrooms inside. There's no other facilities except for the main entryway.
So that's a really nice way nowadays to get exposure for the kids in a safe way to nature without going too far.
That's right.
Home. And that's really exciting. What are your plans for the future?
Well, we're actually meeting in a couple of weeks, and we're going to, on the east side of the park, the plan was a small section of the park goes over the Beaver Bank Road. And one of the areas that they're looking at is the old rail line is currently being leased. And there's a lot of discussions at all levels of government to perhaps have that, hopefully have that land turned over to the public so we can continue that trail system. And that trail system would eventually join up with the Sackville Greenway, which is under construction, and go right up to Beaver Bank. So,
wow, that would be exciting.
So on the west side of the park, we're looking at some of these wilderness trails and consider some sort of marking or something. The other thing we're looking at is potentially connecting with the Waverley Trail system, which goes all the way up into Waverley and all the way to Dartmouth. So part of the Halifax Green Plan is to have more and more active transportation networks and hiking trails so that people have options rather than just drive. They can walk or bike or whatever. So it gets people out, gets them getting more exercise, right? And, rather than drive somewhere.
Have fun with it.
That's right.
A suggestion, what I know from German trails, sometimes they put signs on the tree. This is the oak tree. An oak tree, and some educational thing about it. Or on other trails, they put some sports equipment out, say a tree trunk, and then they put a sign up how to exercise, like jump across. For kids, it's perfect.
Yes.
And that would be a suggestion for the future, to add something like that, to have for the kids some place to go to and have fun, and at the same time experience nature instead of just exercising their thumbs.
Yes. Yeah, that's for sure. Yes. And it is nice. I mentioned earlier, when you get back there, you're almost escaping from your city life because you can, and it's so close to you. And I think that's why a lot of people don't know about it. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do is we're trying to do more outreach and education and try to get more people knowing about it. And we'll be doing some more things. In the fall, we're going to be having a anniversary party. Date hasn't been finalized yet, but
exciting.
Yeah, we're hoping to just get more people there and educate people about the park and the benefits and everything that's there. That's for the public, really.
Wonderful. Well, Michel, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for being there today.
Thank you for having me again. Of
course, it was a pleasure to talk about a local topic for a change that is health related, because we all need more exercise. Most of us do. And if anybody of you who is listening has any questions, Don't hesitate to contact me with any questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions. My email here is christine@communityradio.ca, or you can contact me through my website, drchristine.com. And I'm always grateful for feedback. I also want to extend a special thank you to today's producer, Seth Glasgow. Thanks, young man. You might not know this, but this is also a volunteer-run non-profit radio station, and we even have an art gallery. If you're local, you would like to drop in, we are at 11 Glendale Avenue, Lower Sackville. Thank you all for listening to Healthy Alternatives. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Sauer. Tune in next Thursday at noon on 97.5 CIOE FM, community radio with live stream on communityradio.ca. Goodbye and have a great day.